Alright, so today is gonna be a video basically about sex education and kind of why I feel like it's important. Bottom line, I believe it should be mandatory in public schools. And what prompted this video was because some certain people, overly religious, conservative, think, it's not necessary and should not be in school. And I just think that is a load of crap. So, a little background on me. I am from Colorado originally, and that's where I did all my mandatory schooling. And in Colorado, it's a pretty liberal and open state, so I find what I've seen is the most kind of religious, conservative states have probably the worst sex education and the highest teen pregnancy rate. And Colorado is actually pretty good, pretty low. Their sex education programs, public school programs are, I would say, pretty good. There's always room for improvement, but out of the rest of the states, they're pretty good. But that's where I got my education from. So in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade is when I got sex education, and I find it to be really important. My parents never really talked about sex to me because they were 16 when they had me, and they just kind of used that as their example. Like, it was, if you don't want to have a baby at 16, please don't do what we did. School is where I got my education from, which is why I'm so big on it, because there's a multitude of circumstances as to why a kid would not have the sex talk at home. So, yeah, basically, I learned everything in school. In 5th and 6th grade, they do a pretty good job at keeping it age appropriate. So in 5th and 6th grade, you learn more about the biological fertilization and the development. You talk about sperm and egg and the ovaries and the testicles and periods and just basic stuff like that. And then as you go into 7th and 8th grade, we learned about all of that and also STDs in heavy, heavy detail. It was, oh my Lana, it was scary. It was eye-opening, but it was good. So we learned about STDs and all forms of contraception and basically the emotional and physical aspects of engaging in sex as well. And we just kind of talked about that, and so that's what we did. That's what I learned in 7th and 8th grade. And then in 9th grade, it was just all of that together, and then a little bit more emphasis on the biological aspects. We got a little bit deeper into that, just because we were more capable of learning about it. And so, yeah, that's, like I said, where I got most of my sex education from, because my parents did not talk to me about it. And I feel like that's what a lot of people tend to forget, is school is the only place on earth where you're going to have all the children and all the hormones kind of corralled together at your disposal. That is the only place people, or I should say kids, are going to get, a uniformed, informative education. Instead of having them Google things on the internet themselves and finding misinformation and scarring and traumatizing photos of God knows what, it's best to just address it at school. And at school is where I believe sex education should be implemented, because, like I said, there's a multitude of reasons as to why you would never talk about it at home. Your parents could be just like mine and be kind of timid and weirded out by talking about it with their children, because it is awkward, but it should happen. Or, you could grow up in not ideal situations. You could have a single alcoholic parent, or you could be being raised by older cousins or siblings or whatever, or you could simply have overly religious parents who believe abstinence is the only way, and then that is also really dangerous, because it does not work. It's saying sex doesn't happen is basically closing your eyes and your ears and saying, I don't believe in this, when in reality, we do know that kids have sex. Kids have lots of sex. Saying abstinence only and not making sex education accessible at school is just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you're doing here is you're letting kids become pregnant, spreading STDs, just a whole mess of things that you could have prevented by educating them and giving them the tools that they need to kind of make decisions for themselves, because they're not going to be children that you can control forever. So, yep, that's about it. Like I normally say, if you're pro-life and you were here, I hope you learned something. That's about all I can say. So I hope you learned something. Yeah, and if you're not following me, My Life 3Es 101, and And I'm on Tumblr, so find me.